Anthony Joshua got KO'd by Daniel Dubois in a boxing match. It's funny how things play out because Anthony Joshua KOs Francis Ngannou, embarrasses him, right? Wrecks him. And then his next fight, he gets knocked out. It's a circle of life. It's a circle of the fight game. Nobody gets out of this game unscathed. Even people like Floyd Mayweather, who's undefeated, everyone will come out of this game, with some type of loss. Even if you don't have a loss in your record, you're going to have some injury. Nobody gets out of this game clean. Don't expect to be a swimmer and not get wet, but I find it very interesting how Anthony Joshua, Olympic champion boxer, great boxer, he loses to Andy Ruiz. Instantly, everyone jumps on him. He's washed. He's done. He's a bum. He's just a weightlifter, bodybuilder. He's not tough, right? He comes back and has some good, solid wins. He knocks out Francis Ngannou in Francis Ngannou's second boxing fight, right? And now everyone's like, oh, Francis is washed. She was never that good. He's a bum boxer. He was never good. He's just, you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on. Same thing with Deontay Wilder, right? Deontay Wilder went undefeated for 40-something fights, right? I believe 41 fights, knocking everybody out brutally. He loses a couple fights, and now everyone's like, he's a bum. He's washed. He was never that good. He never had skill. It's just the fight game is a brutal game, and there's so many critics and there's so many people who love to run their mouth as soon as the fighter loses, right? So I think, it's just part of the game. The way he got caught throwing the uppercut blindly, I've gotten caught like that before, so it's funny that, regardless of the levels you're at, the fundamentals of the game remain the same. In my fight with Tyson Miller, I went to throw an uppercut and I threw a naked uppercut and I got countered with a shot very similar to that. So, Daniel Dubois is interesting to me because I first saw Daniel Dubois when he fought on one of Jake Paul's fight cards years ago. And I looked at him like, damn, that guy's a good fighter, young guy, very skilled, and he's been really cutting the corner and taking it to the next level. He's an incredible boxer, That takes nothing away from Anthony Joshua and what he's done. People calling him a bum and saying he's washed and he's shot and this and that. It's ridiculous. Have some respect. Show some respect. These dudes go out there and they put it all on the line, If you lose one fight and you lose a couple fights, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Go back to the old days. Remember Muhammad Ali? Muhammad Ali had multiple losses. Mike Tyson had a few losses. Jack Dempsey, few losses. Joe Louis, a few losses. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Cut it out. If a fighter loses, not everybody can be Floyd Mayweather. Not everybody can be John Jones. Not everybody can be Khabib. And if those guys fight long enough, trust me, they will lose. You know what I'm saying? This is the nature of the fight game. It's the nature of the fight business. So show some respect. If you're fighting people who are competitively at your level, you're probably going to lose at some point. You know what I'm saying? If you're fighting people and they're competitively at your level, you're not fighting bums, you're probably going to lose because that's why it's competitive. At some point, you're probably going to lose. Whether you go undefeated for X amount of time and then you get caught slipping, it doesn't mean that a guy's not a good fighter. It doesn't mean that his career is done, so cut it out with all that. I just can't stand when, something, for example, perfect example is Francis Ngannou goes in, he fights Tyson Fury, has an incredible showing, wins the fight, in my opinion, gets robbed by the judges. He goes out his next fight, maybe like a month and a half later, and fights Anthony Joshua, an Olympic champion boxer. He gets knocked out, and people are like, oh, he's a bum. He's done. It's over with. Come on, show some respect, And now people are saying, oh, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder are shot. They're bum fighters now. Deontay Wilder is someone that you have to always respect regardless because of what he did and when he was coming up, how he was knocking everybody out, brutalizing everybody. He's a dangerous man. You have to respect him. You know, it's like Rocky. In the movie Rocky, after he lost his belt to Clubber Lang, he felt like a bum. He felt like he was done. He felt terrible, you know. And I just don't really respect how you know, a fighter can go out there, put his life on the line, put his heart on the line, give incredible fights for so long, for our entertainment. And then as soon as he loses one fight, loses two fights, people just completely shit on the guy. I guess that's the nature of the business and the nature of the game. But you know, I believe that if we're gonna watch this sport, we're gonna watch combat sport, show some respect to the athletes. You know, in Japan, they don't care if you win or lose, as long as you go out there and you show a warrior spirit, which is what Anthony Joshua showed. You know, he got knocked out and he was still clenching on his mouth guard, trying to get up, pushing himself up, giving it everything he had, which in life, that's what it's about. We're going to get knocked down. We're going to get knocked out. We have to get up the next day and try again. You know, that's why I like fighting. That's why I watch fighting, because it's a symbolic allegory for life. You know, Anthony Joshua, regardless of whatever life throws at him, he's going to be that guy who's getting up off the ground, you know, to his last breath, trying to get off the ground, you know? And that's what I think is more impressive as a fighter and a fight fan. You know, I think the whole culture of combat sports, you know, should be looked at a bit, because currently the culture is a guy gets knocked out, you shit on him, right? You know, most of these people have never fought or trained before in their life, so I don't even understand how hard it is. And, you know, respect the valiant effort. Respect the guy who went out there and knocked out Francis Ngannou. Respect the guy who went out there, he got knocked out by Andy Ruiz, came back, you know? Show some respect. You know, that's all I'm saying, is just like, it's ridiculous. But this is how Anthony Joshua is reacting after the loss.
Yesterday night we came up short, but look, we got to look at all the positives. That's the mindset and that's the perspective that we have to have, a positive one, always. Look at what we've achieved in the space of 11 years. It's phenomenal. And I want to thank every single one of you that's been riding with me. What a roller coaster journey. But you know what the problem is that it's far from over yet. You know, we've done it once, we've done it twice. Doing it a third time hasn't been easy, but I believe it's something I can achieve. It's about making the right steps forward, working hard, improving, and it's got to come from here more than anything. It can't come from any external voices or influences. It's got to come from here. And it's only been a day, but when I sit back and I'm thinking, I know I got a lot of this, man. I know I got a lot of this. So yeah, just a video to say thanks for your support. Thanks for being on this roller coaster journey with me. Keep your seatbelts tight, because deep, deep, deep down in here, I know we've got a lot more to bring.
And, you know, that's what it's about. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about your heart. It's about getting up again, trying again, you know, falling down 7 times, getting up 8. You know what I'm saying? And that 8th time maybe is the time that you win. So I think what I see in when it comes to fight sports, everybody knows it's ridiculously hard and it's a very macho sport. People want to discredit people like Francis Ngannou, Anthony Joshua, Anderson Silva. You know, if John Jones loses, they're going to absolutely just completely take a dump on him. You know, they want to discredit these people because they want them to lose self-confidence and lose self-belief. In the game of fighting, it's all about self-belief, work, skill, of course, but a big part of it is your actual belief in your self-confidence and what you believe. And even if you lose, getting up and trying again. So Anthony Joshua has an incredible mindset, and that's why he became champion multiple times in the first place, you know. But I like it. I like to take it back to the old school days, you know, when we have Muhammad Ali losing to George Foreman, coming back, you know, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier having incredible fights back to back. That's what it's about, you know. It's about the will to win and the desire to win and just putting out heart, you know, and trying. And I want to see Deontay Wilder come back and end his career on a glorious note. I want to see Anthony Joshua come back and do it again for the third time. That's what movies are made of. That's what Rocky made his whole career from, right? You know, the Rocky story. That's why it's such a popular, timeless story, because the human experience is similar to Rocky's character. You know, getting knocked down, getting up, trying again, being down and out, building up your confidence, having support from your family and your friends, shutting out the external noise. That's what it's about. That's what fighting is about. And you know, when you guys are watching fighting, you show a little bit more respect to the fighters, you know, because if you're not going to go out there, and if you aren't willing to go out there and lose, you know, you can't really speak on it. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to have critiques, like, you know, maybe he should have had his hand up, maybe he should have done that. But he's an expert at the game. He's one of the best. And Daniel Dubois is an incredible fighter. You know, Daniel Dubois has made leaps and bounds in the last like 4 years. You know, so that's my 2 cents on it. And I just think that I personally love to see, you know, someone who's down and out come back and have a glorious moment. When Adesanya knocked out Alex Pereira after being wrecked by him multiple times, that's inspiring to me. You know what I'm saying? That's inspiring. When if Tony Ferguson can finally turn it around and get a glorious win, that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? That's inspiring. That's like energizing. You know, when, you know, someone like Jim Miller comes out and he just gets a big win, that's what it's about. That's these glorious moments are about, you know. When your favorite basketball team or football team who hasn't ever won a Super Bowl or won an NBA championship finally wins, you know, that feeling you get. That's what it's about to me. That's why I love fighting. And I want to see Anthony Joshua continue. You know, he has the right mindset. You know, a loss isn't this huge thing. It's a part of life, you know, and if you're fighting and if you're competing in life, in the game of life, you're bound to take an L. You know, it's just about how you come back from that L, you know, with a fresh mindset and put your boots on and try again the next day. And I think that's more of a it's a better thing to focus on, you know, because we all could take from that. And even if you're not a fighter, you could take from that. Maybe you took a loss in life, maybe you took a loss in relationship, maybe you took a loss in business. How are you going to come back? You know, how are you going to come back from that? And we can look at fighters like Anthony Joshua and take inspiration and take that mindset and come back. You know, Conor McGregor, when he lost to Nate Diaz, how he came back, you know, from a loss, you know, that was inspiring to many people. And how he came back, fought Nate Diaz again, had a great fight with him, and really, really dug deep. That's what it's about. You know, that's what makes us feel alive, is digging deep and just really going for our dreams. And, you know, if you're not digging deep in your life, if you're not going for your dreams, if you're not falling on your face, then don't speak on guys like Anthony Joshua. Don't speak on guys like Deontay Wilder. Don't speak on guys like Tony Ferguson. They believe in something more than just, oh, you lost, you got knocked out, like, shut up. You know, these people are putting their balls on the line and fighting for what they believe and fighting for their dreams and their hopes and their family and overcoming fears, you know, and that's inspiring to me. And I like it when Anthony Joshua was talking about heart. You know, that's inspiring. That's what it's about. That's what life is about. So show some respect. Much love. I'm out of here. Peace.